Good morning and good afternoon. This is episode 125 of the Digital Shop Talk Radio. My name is Uwe Kleinschmidt. I'm the founder and CIO of Autovitals. And today's episode is really close to my heart. I'm so honored to have two couples on the show I have known for years now. And I was able to watch and interact and learn from. And so now we have them here on the show, and I'm convinced it's going to be a good one. So why don't you guys introduce yourself and talk about your business or businesses in the meanwhile, and let's take it from there.
Go ahead, guys.
Okay, great.
Thank you, and thank you for having us. We really appreciate, and we are honored also to be on as your guest. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great to be here
Thank
with
you.
you, JR and Rita and Uwe. We've this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure it will be a great show, at least for all of us, and hopefully for everybody watching us. But I'll just kind of lead off. So Jan and I are the founders and the owners, co-owners of Murphy's Autocare. We're in Beaver Creek, Ohio. It's a suburb of Dayton, Ohio, in the Midwest. We started our business in 1994, and so we're in year 27. And now our son, one of our sons, is also a co-owner with us, our successor as well. But that's happened in the last couple of years. He's of course worked with us for many, many years. But Jan and I, yeah, we kind of got this crazy merry-go-round going a long time ago. We were 3 bays when we started. I was one of the technicians. Jan was literally the front office until all the kids got off the school bus and had to go take care of that. And,
and that was day one. That was
exactly,
day one. I joined and went in with a DOS version of QuickBooks and a computer, which we had not owned at the time, and started learning as I could go because Dave was still working on cars. And so I didn't really grow up wanting to be in the automotive business, but it's been very, very enriching for me. And I've enjoyed it every step of the way. So from the time the kids were in school, I would go in, answer phones, schedule appointments based on what Dave suggested, time-wise, or, I had an appointment book with the number of bays that we could fill and the time slots. And so we just did everything we could, and that's how we started.
We, like I said, we started out as 3 bays. That facility grew over time to be 8 inside bays, now with a 9th outside heavy duty lift. We have approximately, between technicians, service advisors, concierge drivers, we have 9 people on our staff there. And then in March, we grew our business. We acquired another very long-standing family-owned automotive business in another community surrounding us. So we're now at 2 locations, and so everything doubled. So
everything doubled. So
staff, responsibilities, conversations, which I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk more about, and about how we do that, but responsibilities. And so now we're at that. And of course, Brian, our son, is also our chief operations officer, and he is managing both of those locations as we move back into the positions we both had.
And as we've grown over the 27 years, we have definitely learned a lot how to work with each other and live with each other and still live with each other. So it's been interesting, and it's all good. It's all a good way. Our relationships are better. We've developed personal relationships and business relationships, and we've learned how to do that. So in 27 years, I could say, we really wouldn't change much at this point. It's been a wonderful thing. And so we still enjoy going to work every day, and I do too.
Yeah, absolutely, every day. That's kind of our journey in a nutshell. That's just the 30-second elevator version.
Before we switch to Rita and JR, how come you wanted to run the business together? I mean, what was the initial trigger, if you remember?
Oh, we very clearly do. So,
well, Dave has a love of people, and so he didn't want to work on the cars. We learned to grow the business so that he could really become more on the front counter. And that was very challenging. He enjoyed that a lot. And then he stepped away from the front counter to allow other people to handle the front counter. He does a lot of the marketing and advertising, and he really enjoys that growth. He is the idea person in the business, hands down. And I have more support organizational skills to get his ideas. Okay, how's that going to work as far as the business goes? So he really has a lot of the brainstorming.
Visionary. I lean
He
towards
is the
visionary.
visionary.
She's certainly the integrator.
I'm certainly the integrator, and that's okay because his talents are in his ideas. I mean, he's very talented.
Thank
He
you.
has a lot of.
That's great.
I mean, when he said we just built our home and had a fourth baby, and he said, I want to go into business for myself.
I mean, like
wanna buy this
within
business.
90 days of all that stuff happening.
I'm like,
it's just like, let's just keep
how
this thing
are we
going.
going to do this? And so we did. And then, so the second time around, just a few months ago, we came into this second location thinking, well, we put it all on the line 27 years ago. This is easy. It's easy now. We know what to do. We've defined our roles. And so we complement each other.
And then there is a third and a fourth in the making.
The shop?
Yes.
Well, yeah, we're set to grow. We're set
Yeah.
to grow, but our successor can. He's involved in the planning and the
Right.
ideas. That they're going to be his ideas next.
Right.
So
Okay, thank you.
Go through that. Yeah.
Rita and JR,
Well, hi, Jan.
how did you start?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's always a pleasure to be in your show. I'll tell you a little bit about how we started. I was a technician. I grew up with my uncle working on cars, and I was a helper at a dealership when I was right out of high school, and had kind of not a bad experience, but I didn't care for the business then because the dealership was just very toxic, and I knew I didn't want to grow up in that environment, and I kept going to night school to get a business degree. But I couldn't leave the automotive because that was well paid. And so I worked for automotive, and I kept going to college at night, and eventually worked for Goodyear. And I moved up from a technician to service manager to store manager. And I enjoyed doing that. And at the end, my last college class to get my bachelor's, I needed to do a business plan. And when I did a business plan, I was not going to do automotive. I was going to do something else. But at the end, I was running out of time. So I thought I would cheat and do JR's automotive. And when I started thinking about the vendors and my demographics and my customers and my gross profit and, all the numbers, well, I was kind of groomed for that through Goodyear, and all the images of vendors and part suppliers and customers began flowing in my mind. And at 28, I just saw the forest from the trees, and I was like, wait a minute, I can do this. So luckily enough, Rita and I bought a home very young, and we were able to mortgage it and bought our first shop in 2006. So when we bought it, it had one technician, and after 3 days, there was no technician. So it was just myself. And so we hired one technician, and it was sent from God, and it was just a blessing. And then we got another one, and then another one, and it was a 3-bay location. Our first location, it was 3 bays, and it was a very hidden spot. It was actually behind and underneath, not kidding, a little strip mall, and the bad part of town. So we outgrew that within 4 or 5 years, and we were able to move to a building on the main drag. We bought the building. We moved to an 8-bay location. 5 years after that, we started our second location. Our first location is a German specialty shop. So we thought we found a formula by specializing in a certain group of niche makes. And a lot of our customers wanted us to work on their Asian vehicles. So we started an Asian specialty shop nearby. And again, we put it all on the line and bought a second building and started a business from scratch and so on and so forth, which we learned a lot. 4 years later, we bought our third location, which is an all makes, whole models. And just 2 months ago, we bought our fourth location, which is 10-bay all makes, whole models in Ohio. It's a nearby town to us. But that's basically our journey in a nutshell. And we went from no employees to we have 33 now, and 4 shops. And we can at times I can't even comprehend how that happened, but we're super happy and proud of that. So
Yeah.
that's our journey.
And purchasing a building, it wasn't buying a business was not in our plan, but
Yeah.
that just came from one of a class
That
we
just
had,
came.
right?
And if you can plot our growth in a chart, you will be easily to find when Rita came on board, because that just. But that's us.
Very
And
cool.
so you both did it basically from the beginning together.
No. So
Oh.
in 2006 we started the shop, and when did you come on board?
I think I came in 2009.
Yeah.
2009. Probably
Yeah,
2009. Anyways.
2009.
Mhm.
That's one of our biggest.
I used to have my full-time job, and when he purchased his business, it was a piece of junk in my eyes, but he always has this vision. It was just 3-bay, it was small. I never really thought it was gonna get bigger than just 3-bay. And so when I came in, I used to always help him though. I had my full-time job, but I used to always help him like anything I could, brought the kids to come clean. Right?
Yeah, we clean on the weekend. She would help me do some bookkeeping and things like that. But when we were stuck, when she had her full-time job, we had different visions, right? We would come home and she would have her challenges, and I would have my challenges, and it was a split vision. I mean, even though we're working to have a good life for our family and for our futures, it was pushing 2 different frontiers at her location and at our business. So in 2009, about 3 years after, we made the decision that she would join us. And luckily for us, she's a very good bookkeeper and accountant by trade.
By trade, yes.
So that was just a no-brainer. And once we joined forces, we had a collective purpose, a collective goal of growing the shop and creating something that was that we were both in it together. That we saw a goal in a concentrated effort in pushing the shop, because now we couldn't rely on our income, and she had a good income. She was a corporate, we were
accounting manager. Yes.
And we had to overcome that. So it was now sink or swim, and there was no safety net per se. But that really was the catalyst, because we had a mortgage, we had kids in private school, we needed to live our lives. And now that both of us relied on the business, it was go time. That's and that was powerful. That was a powerful moment in time.
Were you nervous and could you sleep well, or how did that work? I just asked that because I remember my time when I left a well-paid corporate job and started Auto Vitals and bootstrapped it. All of a sudden, I slept like a baby. You would think it's the opposite, right? Because the problems are so much bigger, or what's at stake is so much higher. But I don't know why. It was for me something natural, and just go for it, right?
Yes.
Or as a
We were able to sleep better. We woke up early, and we just had like I said, we were not fighting two frontier wars. Now we were joined, and we were fighting the same frontier, and
we had a common goal.
Yeah, and that just made us more powerful.
Yeah, to that point, Uwe, I had been with a Fortune 500 company for 10 years before we decided to cash it all in and make this jump as well. And that's, I experienced the same thing you did. I mean, there were so many things that were out of my control, so many things that we had to, were required to do. And interestingly enough, even though there was a lot of things I didn't know, we didn't know when we went in business for ourselves, there was this piece that at least it was up to us now, totally. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's funny that you would think, how does that give somebody peace? Well, it does, because you realize it's on your shoulders. And
there's also a lot of stress starting up. We also had a huge mortgage on a brand new house that we built, and the fourth child came along, and Dave had been traveling in his previous job, so I was on my own. So this was either partner with him and let's grow together, or we didn't really have any options. So it was sink or swim for us as well. And we had to make payroll. And I didn't have an accounting background, although I've been involved in, bookkeeping a lot. And it was just, I managed the household bills, and everything just grew, and we had to do it. We didn't have a choice. But we knew we could rely on each other, and we had the faith in that we were doing the right thing, and that we had what it took. We had the self-esteem and the faith to know we can do this. Don't ask me how, but we just knew from the beginning, if we lost it all tomorrow, it didn't matter, because we had each other, and we'll watch each other's back. We're going to be there for the long run. And we've had bumps in business in the early years, and setbacks, and a lot of things like that. So we just had the faith, and we worked together. And when we couldn't work together, we knew we had to work that out, because we had a different vision. We had to practice what we had in common and get there together, even though we had different ideas of how things should work. So we've learned to respect each other's roles tremendously. It's been challenging, but he excels at certain things. I excel at certain things. And we've learned a respect for each other to stay in our lane now that we have developed our roles in the business.
Would you all agree that the art of compromise is something we've all mastered to make it work?
Absolutely.
And I think that comes from, at least for me, I'll speak for me, is that our relationship, the one her and I started with 40 years ago, is still the most important thing.
Always comes first.
And as long as we keep that focus, for us, it's always helped us. I mean, that's when I've gotten off track, it's like, hey, wait, how did we get this thing all going? Because that's what I like, and that's where I'm good. So I'm going to bring the train back on that track. Because reality is, it's something's out of balance slightly most of the time, and it's all about getting it back, And
having couples who work together, it's very rare. There's many couples who could not do it. But for those who can, it can work very well, as long as we have the common goal, and there is atonement. We're moving forward as one. It's not his deal or my deal. We're moving the business forward as one. And now we have our successor, our operations officer, who's our son, who started out as a master mechanic, and then became counter sales, and then became management, and has grown also. So that's actually adds more dynamics to the family business.
Good deal.
And to maybe dive into this a little bit more, I assume you had to learn, setting your responsibilities, and sometimes they overlap, and sometimes you own certain things. How did that evolve over time? And I assume you were not always on the same page. That would be very rare. So how did you find out how to do the compromise?
Uwe, sometimes we weren't even in the same book, not literally the page.
Wow.
And for us, it still comes back to me we got to get this thing back on track. And so just being open with each other and talking to each other, and hearing each other out. And sometimes the volume's loud when you're listening, but it needs to be to move on to where we can get resolve. And that's what's worked for us.
When we work together in concert with one another, we excel so much faster than when we're not on the same page or somebody's not in agreement. So we have to talk about it in order to have understanding. You know, I may not agree with Dave, and I'm going to ask questions until I understand it. And if I understand it, then I'm all in. But if I don't understand it, I'm leery, I'm more cautious, I'm more conservative than he is. He's all jump in the deep end, no matter what, we'll figure it out as we go. I'm more, well, let's have a plan. Let's go with the idea. Let's start with your idea. What do you want to accomplish? And then work it backwards. What are the steps to get there? So that's where we find the balance.
Mhm.
And I think out of trial and error and mistakes and frustration, it's taught us, we've both done this long enough and had a lot of frustrations. It's taught us that, okay, how long are we going to be frustrated about this time? I mean, if you've done it 27 times, let's kind of get over the frustration, talk about it, and what can we agree on, and how can we make this work going forward? Or are we gonna can it? You know what? There's times when his ideas are coming faster than I can comprehend them all. Like with buying this second location, I mean, we were taking a week, a month of vacation and going. We have a place in Florida. We were traveling. We were traveling out of the country, you know, a couple years ago, and we were really enjoying life until this opportunity came up to buy this other location. And I've always fought another location because I'm like, we have a great location. We have a great business. We are very fine-tuned on our KPIs. It's going really well. Why would we want to throw a wrench in that? But I was convinced when he told me about the business, the location, it was a family business. It just seemed like a no-brainer, and I bought in completely. So I'm very happy about that. I just think when we talk about how it's going to work and we share the vision, that way we can talk about how we can accomplish it. So it takes time and understanding, and I have to be open-minded enough to listen, and he has to be open-minded and listen enough to hear my concerns, because I'm a more cautious person.
Yeah,
That is awesome. How is it with you, Rita and Gerardo?
I agree. Communication is very important. Having the common goal. We attend seminars, classes together. We read almost the same books. Like you, I like to plan. He is a visionary. He has these crazy ideas. We sit, talk about it. I support him. We plan it. What else would we say?
Yeah, and since the beginning, we had very defined roles. Obviously, myself growing in the automotive industry, basically, and her being an accountant by trade, there were some very defined roles since the very beginning. She still doesn't work the counter or anything like that. She the books, the numbers, payroll, payables, HR, benefits. That's her wheelhouse. And I do with production, sales, employees, customers. And then we have weekly meetings, obviously, of reportings, and we treat, when we're at work, we're professional. We pretend to be
we're professional business partners.
Professional business partners, and we try to leave any of the house stuff out of it, because we're there to work, and I just want to get to work, and when I'm home, I want to be at home with my wife, and when we're at work, I want to be with my partner and just get things done. We have very limited office time together because I'm always in the field or having a meeting or
one of the shops somewhere.
One of the shops somewhere. So when we do get to be in the office at the same time, we try to plan it so it's work. Let's just be there and get our meetings and look at the reporting, and we'll go home and chit chat about the kids and the dog, you know. But that's we have very defined roles, and she's really good at what she does. And for me, having somebody doing the books and looking at our bank accounts and having a report at the end of the week, or daily if I ask her for it, it's really priceless. That I can sleep at night knowing that nobody's got our, nobody can drive that financials better than ourselves, and somebody that I fully trust.
And so how do you make decisions then? Is it basically Rita pulling you back from your dreams and say, wait a second, that's not what the budget gives us? Or how does that work?
Well, normally through the reporting, we know how much money we got to spend and if we can do something and if we cannot. And normally I come home with a new idea and then we'll talk about it and make a decision.
Yeah.
Since the beginning, she's been very supportive of the ideas that I have. And if I'll sit down and dice it and slice it in 10 different ways, and then I'll sell her the idea that we can do it. And then once she's on board, it's all go.
Yeah.
She trusts me to do it.
Yeah, he said, I'm gonna buy a 4th shop. I'm like, okay, all right, how are we gonna do this? So I know he had that as an idea. So I'm like, all right, let's make it work. So play around with the numbers, or we have to cut this to do this. And we just come out with a plan, and it's doable. Yeah. But he's the crazy one, not me. I just help.
Reminds me of Shark Tank. You are the shark, Rita, and JR is proposing something. Is that how it works?
Yes.
Kind of, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a great analogy. It's really great.
Yeah.
So JR, I've been in your shoes many times. You know what I mean?
Only
And,
ours is more like a dunk tank. If you can't really
Hold it
sell me,
down.
I just push that button.
yeah. Back later.
Yeah. Go dry off.
But I'm extremely tenacious and I don't give up. So I'm
That's
like,
right.
And I'm sure you are too, JR, because like you can see this. This is like real in your mind, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't. Uwe knows me pretty well. I'm not really crazy about details and plan. I can barely spell the word. So, but I don't,
But he is
Jan
persistent.
does that so well. And she's what brings me back,
And-
makes me think about those things.
And there's certain things
And-
that just won't go away, even though I say,
like
I
you're questioning
got him a
me?
little
Yeah,
notepad
right.
one time it was an idea book. I said, just write them down
Oh.
and then review them before you bring the really important ones to me, because he was always talking to me about his next idea. And we're either, going, with the kids somewhere or an event or whatever. And it was always his ideas that he's telling me in the car as we're driving somewhere for an appointment. And I said, let's just sit down and talk. So that's another thing. We would set aside time to talk about what he wanted to do next, where we really had the time to talk about it and have a true discussion. And that wasn't at the dinner table with the children. We did not talk about business at home. No matter what fire was happening when I left the shop to get the kids off the bus and make dinner, he was always home for dinner sooner or later. It might not have been when we ate or we would hold off, but he was always home at night. His previous job on the road, the kids didn't see him. So the kids understood, and they all 4 worked in our business at different times. They helped with our events. They helped with our promotions. And Dave's always been a great promotional person for the business. And that's where the ideas come into play. Try something new, try something different. What sets us apart? And we're in our community. Our children went to the same high school we went to. Our grandchildren are now at that same school system. We're embedded in our community, and we always will be. And I just think the reliability factor is really good. But if Dave wanted to do something and he truly believed in it, he would be persistent and he would continue to bring it up, even if I would kind of, nix it or whatever. I'm not interested. And sooner or later I would come around. It's just like the little bit bigger boat. It's just always, he's persistent. until he convinces me there's a way to do it, and there almost always is.
So you've really helped me hone my salesmanship skills.
Yes.
Is really what you're
Right.
saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Practice. Yes.
By being a sounding board. Okay. Yeah.
Well, and for our audience, I will tell them this, that if Rita didn't work with me. And I came home and I said, we need to hire another person for the counter or for the back. And, often our spouses only see the checkbook at the end of the month. And they would probably say, like, you don't make enough money, you can't afford somebody. But being there and day in and day out and seeing the potential, seeing the struggles and seeing how we can better improve the service and perhaps ultimately make more money because we hire somebody else. It's a hard sell if somebody's not there to not only to visit from time to time, but when you're there 24/7 and you see the struggle and you're running around answering the phone while bolting on a thermostat in a car and you need somebody, it's a hard sell without somebody being there. So unless you're fully bought into the business with your spouse, it's gonna be a much tougher sale to sell something like that. Right?
Well, and I think with the convincing me of where he wanted us to grow, it also came with his development of his leadership. And it wasn't just, he wasn't trying to sell me on something. He was trying to lead me into the net. He was trying to get me on board to lead our team. And so we've learned that, you get the ideas, you get everybody on board and you have a good culture, the money will come. It's not about the sales dollars anymore.
No.
It's not even about that. It's about leadership. And I've seen him grow, over the years. We both have, but it's the leadership skills and the way we present ourselves to other people to get them to want to follow us. And so we have a great group of people at both locations that they are on board and they want the growth of the company as much as we do. And it's really to facilitate their families. And
it's
so
about opportunities. And I think that's what we all do.
During 2020, we wanted to make sure everybody was taken care of and reassurance. We had to give reassurance and growth opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what our focus was on. And I think it made us grow together.
Oh, absolutely.
As well. And that was all the while that this second location was in the back. We actually thought it was falling off of our opportunity list. But in fact, it was a good time because they didn't fare so well during 2020. And they didn't have the same situation. And so it was an opportunity for us to grow our team and lead our team and create more leaders within our umbrella company.
Yeah.
Very important. Create leaders.
Create leaders.
And so maybe a step back still. So if I understand it correctly, you both were able to say, when we leave the shop problems stay in the shop. Home is family.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you do that from the beginning and it worked smoothly? Or I mean, just I cannot switch off when I leave the office, right? I mean, I don't know how to do that, right? So it takes really a lot of discipline because family is family. So how did you manage over the years the separation of both?
Well, I'll just speak to it for a minute. I have a struggle with that too, and I can tell you in the early days when we started, our children were all very small, and when I would make it home for dinner, there was an occasional comment from one of them, the four of them, the older ones or three older ones, who would be like, "Hey, Dad, can we just not talk about that now?" And when your children tell you that and ask you that, and I'd look at Jan and she'd be like, well, maybe you should listen to them.
And now they're adults. And so one of the things we did was, as they became older, we wanted to share our future and succession plan with all of them because it pertains to one of them more than all of them. And we wanted them to have an understanding of our vision and that, we do have a successor, but they're all equally important. So we have that meeting that's a business meeting with our children twice a year. But then we, like when they come over for Sunday dinner, we're not talking about We're not talking about business.
Business.
We see our children frequently. They live in town. And so when we're having activities and now there's grandchildren involved, we don't talk about business.
You don't even have time anymore.
But even
Right.
then,
So, this is good.
I think we did in the very beginning because there were a lot of challenges. But once we started defining our roles, and at that time the children were not into the business, we did not want to talk about it. Now that Dave and I live by ourselves, it's okay to talk about it at night. We do often because we have a lot more time together. We have a lot of quiet time now that we didn't have when we had teenagers and young people. But it's the two of us at home at night. So we might stay late and work and maybe go to dinner and talk about this and that. But we always come to when one of us has had enough, we'll raise our hand and say, okay, no more business. And then the other one honors that. And there's even times we say, please turn off your phone. Can you turn off your phone?
Can you stop texting Uva, please?
Put your computer away. Please. So
Very cool.
So we have to set our boundaries.
Yeah.
And we learned that early on, but we've refined that as well. So we have to set our boundaries. When one of us has had our limit with work, the other one will reluctantly stop what they're doing and understand. Because you have to have work-life balance, whether you have children at home or family at home or not. But work-life balance can be challenging the more family people, parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, people are in your life and you have a personal life. We also try not to talk about business during our personal life when we're out with friends, unless we have business in common, which many of our friends have a business. So that's what we enjoy most, is the things we have in common with people.
Thank you.
We,
Rita, JR?
Well, we in the beginning, we talked a lot about business and our challenges and things like that. And I think we also have a limit, just like you guys, like, all right, we're voices trying to raise. The voices are starting to get louder, so we're going to have to stop talking about it. We did a lot of sharing with our kids because we wanted them to learn from what we were doing.
Why we were late, or
why
are we going to a seminar, to a workshop? I want them to know, yes.
And so we shared mainly our strategy, our vision, our purpose, some of the moving key pieces of the puzzle. They knew about it and they were involved. And they seem to enjoy that. Now I'm the active regional manager, and so I go from store to store, and obviously I get all the bad news. And if I just live something, a few hours ago, an angry customer, an upset employee, or something like that, why would I bring it home and relive it? There's no reason to retell that story. It just stays with me, and that's just, I'm gonna handle it. And unless I need to get somebody involved in that or her involved in it.
Other than that, you never really share.
There's no reason to. There's nothing she can do to make it better or to handle it. It just dies with me, kind of thing. And obviously, we do talk about work when we're alone. Our kids are grown and we're alone a lot. But 8 p.m. comes around and no more shop talk. It's just us. So. Because you can get you inside, I wasn't thinking about that. Now I'm thinking about it, and I want to go to sleep. I want to enjoy the evening, and I can deal with it tomorrow morning, kind of thing. So, but our kids were very involved with the strategy, and like I said, we wanted to teach them, share with them what we thought, whether it was a good idea or a bad idea. I guess we'll find out. But I wanted them to be aware of it. Today, our youngest grew up when he was 2 years old when we bought the business. Today we come home and he's watching the Shark Tank or Marcus Lemonis or something like that all the time. And he's really into business.
He understands it.
And he understands more. So we limit business talk as well.
We try, yeah.
Was there anything you experienced through how to deal with employees, or how to run the business, which also changed you? personally. Like Jen said, Dave's leadership skills, you know, grew. And so is there anything you can share where the growth in business and as a leader has an impact on the family or vice versa?
Well, I can say when I was raising 4 children, it was my way or the highway.
That's leadership.
And then I learned that that didn't always work. And so you have to let others fail. You have to teach them and train them and accept their failures, let them fail. They have to learn from their failures. They're not going to learn by being told what to do or how to do it. And that's where leadership comes in. You have to have the leadership enough to allow them to fail and then ask them how they're going to change it or what they're going to do next time. And I think for both of us, instead of, Dave coming home complaining about something at work, and I'd say, well, you need to tell him this or you need to tell him that. I've learned to pause, and then he'll say, so I'm going to, I'm going to ask him to do this, or I'm going to ask him what they're going to do to solve the problem. So he's not the problem solver. He's going to ask the person coming to him with the problem has to learn to fix the problem. And that's the true leadership, is allowing them to make mistakes, to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, and learn from it themselves. So I think that's helped me in our personal life as well.
Yeah, I think for us, we treat our employees like our kids, or we treat our kids like our employees, whatever the phrase is here, where we set the rules of the game. We set what's a win, what's out of bounds, what's a foul ball, and we gotta trust them to make their own choices, because they're individuals and they're all gonna act not like we do, a little bit different. But if they're playing the game and we set what's a win and what's out of bounds, we got to trust them to let them play however they can. And a lot of times I'm amazed with our kids and our employees how their way sometimes is better than how I would. We have the super talented staff, and our kids are super talented as well. And we might not know the best way of doing something. They might fall into or figure out a better way of doing something, and would instill the rules of the game, and it's still a win. So we got to learn from them as well, from our staff and our kids, right?
Correct.
And our kids also learn through, and our employees learn through us. We set the example of discipline, dedication. We have a lot of empathy to our team and our family, obviously, and that's something that both our employees and our kids learn from the leaders. We set the tone, we set the culture, and the way they handle things. I think it's throughout from our example.
And I couldn't agree more. Just from my example, I learned from our kids who came to the United States without knowing any English, had to go to school right away. There was no special treatment, right? And learning from them how they coped with this immense, was like an avalanche of new impressions. And I remember Carl, my older son, went to elementary school, had an old school teacher, and said, "Welcome to class. We cannot do anything special for you. By the way, you have to write an essay every weekend." He didn't understand that, but he knew he had to write an essay every weekend, right? I should have kept them. But and so growing with their challenges was such an amazing thing to see how they, go beyond what you think is possible, right? The kids, because they're fearless. If there's one thing I learned from them, they're just fearless, right? They're not afraid of making a mistake. They just try and find out. So that was really an amazing thing. The other thing I want to bring up also in my experience is, I know it's a stereotype, but I, I learned it to be true in my experience that we as men are trying to be single focused, trying to achieve something and then forget everything around it, right? Whereas women, especially mothers who deal with the unexpected in raising kids every day, are so much better than we are or I am in dealing with the unexpected. And often business is nothing else than that, right? Dealing with the unexpected. And so my question is for JR and Dave, do you have a similar experience? How and when was the epiphany for you, or a similar epiphany I had?
Well, I'll just jump in here and say, so I've had that reoccurring experience. You know, I'm reminded of that lesson, that, yeah, because I can become very focused just because of my nature on one thing, and, you know, and I go after it. And just even when Jan's trying to have conversations with me about other things that are big issues, I have struggled at times. I'd like to think I've gotten better about it, about being able to open it up, you know, and realize it's not just about this one thing I'm very focused on. And she is far better at it. I would say her ability, and I'm going to assume, Rita, yours too, your ability to juggle and keep more plates spinning, and make it all work right, is, you know, is really one of the reasons that our businesses are as successful as they are. Because I'd drop a lot of plates. I'll just tell you that it would. You know, I'll get a bunch of them going, but I won't catch them all. And I think you're both much better at it. So don't know why, but I'm just glad I'm with Jan, and I'm sure JR, you're glad you're with Rita because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. My sometimes I have a vision, and like with this, you know, for an example, this fourth location, I picture this castle in the sky, you know, that is up there, and then Rita comes in and builds the foundation for it, and all I saw was the castle. I couldn't see the foundation and the stairs to get there, and her building a to-do list, and you know, getting paperwork ready for SBA and onboarding new employees and 401k and all the unfathomable amounts of paperwork that it takes to get my vision done. Like, she does it, and she does it really well, and she does it very graciously. So yeah, she multitasks and does all these things that I don't see. I just see the final product, and to put the foundation underneath that castle that was 10 stories high, it's a big task. So thank you for that. She's really good at it.
That's such a great analogy you just used, and because it really hits home for me as I think about what we've just done in the last, you know, 4 months, and I would say, you know, Brian was a big part of that too, but Jan, she was just able to take all the things that I couldn't even see, to get this project underway, get it done, and along with Brian, they just kept putting it all together, and here we are. So. Yeah, I wouldn't have looked near like this, trust me, had I been totally in charge of it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think one person can be in charge. So we have to learn to rely on others to do their job, and to do what they enjoy doing, rely on others. We can't do everything ourselves. And we're not going to be here forever. I mean, life's a temporary assignment. So how do we want this to end? What do we want to leave? What do we want our legacy to be? And hopefully that's about people, and not what we've built, but who we've built it with. And that's the legacy we want to leave.
Sure.
Yes.
Wow, that's powerful. I wanted to talk about, we have, let me see, 10 minutes left. And you all touched on it already, paying it forward to your kids, paying it forward, you know, working with the community. Would you mind sharing? So obviously JR and Rita, your kids are not yet or won't become part of the business, whereas Jen and Dave, Brian is already full on in, has been for years. Um, how did that process work out?
The process of Brian
Yes.
so of course he went through all of the all of the processes, of course the pieces of becoming into the business and so forth, but it's just, if we're speaking about, I guess, legacy here is what we're talking about, and for him, it's just been so important, at least for me, to see his growth personally, and
Right.
and what that will do for him and his family, and honestly, the way our trusts are set up, what will that will also do for his siblings. So that's, I guess, what's in.
But to begin with, he approached us as he was graduating high school. He had already had other jobs, and it was a surprise to us at the time that he wanted to come into the business, because we did not set the business up for our children. We wanted them to follow their dreams. It was very hard work. It was long hours. It was no money. It was figuring it all out as we go. We wanted them to fulfill their dreams and what they wanted to do. So it was very surprising to us, but he showed an interest. He was very mechanically talented from the time he was small, just, very close to his siblings. And, the other siblings didn't want to work necessarily in the business when he was working in the business, because they all respect their relationships, and they didn't want to stress their relationships by working with each other. And so Brian has always had the wherewithal and the knowledge and the training to run the business. And it's in his siblings' best interest if he did. In the event something happened to us. Well, we're way past that. We're planning on, his secession, but they all know what's going on. And so we're encouraging him, training him, but it wasn't always expected. It wasn't that way. But now, we all have to respect each other and each other's dreams, and his dreams are going to be different from ours. And that's fine. So we have to be okay with the other things in life that we enjoy doing. And I think it's been a really good thing.
It's been a great, it's really great to see this process of it. It's the handing off of the baton, because that's kind of where we are in our process. And we're very close to where I will step completely away from any operational things within a few months.
And whether that's our son or our second in command, right. I think every business should have a second in command, so that they know what to do in case you can't be in for a while, or you can't be in permanently. Just to have that plan as how is this going to end and change into the next steps, so that you can walk away from your business or exit in a good fashion.
All right. Well, for us, we still got a long way to go. I feel we our kids we build a business like you guys not for a succession for our kids. We want them to achieve, to fulfill their dreams and go after it. The shop will be there if they choose to come. I would obviously not deny them, but right now they got other interests. Our goal is to talk about our kids.
Well, our son Daniel, he's our oldest. He just graduated from UC San Diego with a double major in business and philosophy, and going for his master's at Cal State Long Beach now. And our youngest just graduated high school. Our youngest, I feel like he has more interest in business, not probably in our business, but in business in general. Since, like you said, we talk about business here at home, we let them know what we're doing. So when he was like about third grade, fourth grade, he made this little company at school. He was it was before St. Patrick's. He made himself a ring out of $1. And the kids were like, wow, how'd you do that? And he's like, oh, I'll make you one. Give me $2. I'll make you one, and he'll keep the other $1. And he kept that going. St. Patrick's Day passed by. So then he's like, I need to come out with more ideas. So he came out. How do you call those?
Origami.
origami. So he kept on doing little things with it, and he started selling them for $1. So he kept on bringing money, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm doing this, and he used to tell me what he was doing. And then so I'm like, homework first, and then you can do it. Mom, they keep asking me for, to do so much, and I can only do so much because you want me to do my homework. So what are you gonna do? He's like, I'm just gonna hire my friends. I'm like, okay. So he hired 3 kids that were doing everything. He wasn't doing anything anymore, but he was bringing in the money. And I'm like, okay, so what's going on? So he told me, oh, I got my friends doing it. I pay them 10%. I keep the rest. Okay. And then it was getting too much for him that he hired an accountant, but he didn't know he was doing this. So he hired the smartest kid there to do the math because he was getting too much demand. Now, a lot of kids were getting those little things, and he was getting too busy. So he decided to hire an accountant now. So he had the accountant dividing the 10%, giving him the rest. And anyways, he had this little company going on in school, and it lasted a few months till the teacher started seeing, the principal started seeing a lot of money coming in and out, that she decided, like, okay, what's going on? They called me in the office. They told me, did you know that this is what he's doing? I didn't get mad at him because I thought it was like such a bright idea, right? He wasn't doing anything but still collecting money. He had an accountant, he had employees. He even had the name of the company was The Makers. That was the name of his company. And I'm like, and then he came one day, Mom, they shut us down. I can no longer have my company because the principal said no. But anyways, I think he's more focused into the business side than our oldest, but I don't know. They so far they come and help us, but no interest whatsoever to work on the shops. So
And that's part of our legacy that we're probably behind, that none of our family members had ever owned a business. So hopefully leaving that trail that you can do something like that, it's gonna be part of our legacy. And one of the things that I do that I'm passionate about is that I try to help others succeed in businesses, or at least make them believe. So I'm also an immigrant. I came here when I was 11 years old from Mexico. So coming from nothing, with a country with no opportunity, to the success we've had, it's unbelievable. And I want to share it with others that they too can do it, whether they're from any color they are, any social economic background, and regardless how they look, the opportunity is here, and they can too do it. And if I can share my wisdom, tell my story, whatever I can do to help and make them believe that they also can do something great, I'm more about it. I share my experiences, and I volunteer with at-risk youth for the Police Activity League around town, and I try to help some of the kids that are perhaps not college bound, and I try to sell the trade, not only my trade but other trades, that there's good money to be made in many other venues that is not just college, and that owning a business or entrepreneurship in the service categories it's a great way to go if you don't like school. Not that you don't have to go to school, but it's something that you can do it, and that is near and dear to my heart, helping somebody else that to see the dream and see the potential that they can do it as well. And Rita mentors some young ladies as well that are at risk, and we give a car away every year to a needy family in the community, and we're giving away a scholarship for trades this year. And so those are all part of paying it forward of what we do, because somebody was there for us and helped us succeed when we were younger. And I feel like not only the need, but I want to help others succeed. And I think that brings a lot of pleasure to me to see others spring forward and do great things.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both for doing that. That's just,
That's
it's
wonderful.
wonderful. And I think that kind of story resonates, certainly, at least I know in our industry, all the great people we've all had the ability to meet. I have to say, I don't know why our industry has such a black eye sometimes, because there's so many giving people in it. And not to say there aren't in other industries, but I mean, you think about the talents that we all collectively have and are so most of us willing to do that. So
Yeah.
I'm very proud to be part of this world, this organization, this industry.
Absolutely.
I think that's, I couldn't say it better, so I better say nothing. That's a good closure of our episode. Thank you very much for coming. It was a pleasure for me to listen to your stories, and I hope you had some fun.
I got one more thing to say. I
Okay.
wrote it down yesterday. For our audience that are thinking of bringing their spouse in to work with them, I often hear from my colleagues saying, as soon as I make enough money, my wife's going to come work for me. Well, I will tell you that you will make enough money if your wife comes to work for you.
That's right.
So I flip that around. Sorry to interrupt this.
No, that was perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really a pleasure.
Guys,
Bye, guys.
thank you.
You all
Have
for
a
your
great
time.
day.
Have a great day. Stay
Have a
well.
great day.
We'll see you. Bye.
Bye.